Welcome to the CEO podcast series. I'm Sean Treble, search consultant at Venari Partners, and in this series, we're diving into leadership and talent with top industry voices. In this episode, I have the great pleasure of welcoming Frank Marrenbach, CEO and managing partner at Althoff Hotels and former CEO of Vetco Collection, where he led the group for over a decade. On a personal note, having Frank on the podcast is incredibly special. He's been one of the main inspirations behind my decision to pursue a career in hospitality and a true role model for great leadership. Over the years, Frank has also been a trusted resource for guidance and advice, making a lasting impact on my professional journey. Frank, thank you for joining us today.
Sean, thank you very much for having me and also for the most kind words. Thank you.
Of course, as I mentioned, obviously, you've played quite a significant role in my career. And as I said, and I mean it, a great role model when it comes to leadership. Now, leadership, I think, is something we talk about a lot, and people always have very sort of different perceptions of what great leadership looks like. I'd love to hear what your approach to leadership is and what you believe are kind of the key attributes of being a good leader, particularly in the context of hospitality.
Well, this is, of course, it's a discussion we can have for 2 hours, 3 hours. So let me try to have a look at maybe the key ingredients I believe make great leadership. First, it starts with oneself. What does that mean? You as a leader, one has to know who we are. So you have to have a profound understanding about your own strengths, weaknesses, abilities, the way you come across, things you can do very well, and maybe things you are not so good at. So that is, I guess, the start, because only if you know yourself, you can, lead others. Second, one needs to understand that we human beings are all imperfect, and I am imperfect. So with this knowledge, it's easier for me because I can also grant a certain degree of imperfection to all of us. Because when you lead people, all too often you expect perfection at all times, at all levels, in all circumstances. And that is, of course, maybe it's too much of an expectation when it comes to looking at what we people can do. So, you have to profoundly know yourself. You have to understand that, everybody's imperfect, and you have to embrace, which sounds a bit odd, the imperfection of yourself and others, because this is the basis to evolve or develop a human view on people, right? Not a robo view on people, because I profoundly believe that this is always felt by people who are led by you. They feel it, even though you don't say it, but they feel what the basis of the interaction is, what's the foundation, better said, right? So I guess that is the beginning. Then, of course, it's communication. Be transparent, set clear goals together, of course. Know what the culture of your company is or should be aware of it, and try to make sure that you understand on what levels is your team on, and what makes them tick, what triggers them. So an individual view on all your team, because if you have 10 people, 5 people, it doesn't matter, nobody is the same. You have great people around you, they are introverted. You have great people around you who are extroverted. So each and everyone deserves an individual approach. which is, of course, and I know that, occasionally exhausting, right? Because every single time it's not the content alone, it's the way you need to, interact with your team. But I guess that is, maybe these are the universal ingredients. And the rest, of course, depends then on your style, who you are, the way you can express yourself, how good you are rhetorically. And then, it's always a matter of not taste, but it's an individual way of getting across what you believe is important in the team, right? And the last one, maybe I feel is ambition, right? Going to the Olympics alone is for me not an ambition. The ambition is to win, right? Not the participation. And I strongly believe in setting an ambitious goals in an environment which is which is based on respect. So respectfully pushing ourselves to that next level. That is how I view it.
You've been a CEO now for quite some time. I would love to hear a bit like along the way, what were your biggest lessons you learned and challenges you might have faced, and how did that influence your leadership style?
I mean, there's many things. Let's look at the role of a CEO in general. A good CEO is able to create a vision for the company. I mean, has a long-term view on things. A good CEO is the custodian of culture. You need to protect whatever culture you feel is appropriate for your company, but you need to protect it. And sometimes it can be at risk. So you need to be able to make sure that the culture, people really like is kept and protected. And third is to constantly challenge the status quo. Not because every organization tends to arrange itself with circumstances. And the role of the CEO is to sometimes ignore what reality offers you, right? So that you have the energy also to just not accept what maybe everybody else sees as unavoidable or without any alternative. So this, I guess, is these three elements are super important. So over time, of course, you learn in particular not to accept that things are like this. Okay, so today was created yesterday, and tomorrow is created today. So you can always, change future. And the good news is, or for whomever this sounds maybe too aloof, you cannot not influence future. Passiveness leads to a different future than being active. Negativity leads to another future than positivity. And I'm not saying, that there's a difference between positivity and being naive. This is a, very different pair of shoes here. But I guess that's the role of the CEO. What I learned, and that is your question, is to also manage my own energy, right? Because that I keep that positive distance between the many challenges, the issues, or opportunities to preserve your energy level, to also have a look at where you can get your energy back. I get a lot of energy from the interaction with my team. I get a lot of energy back from also successfully managing or overcoming an obstacle together. But I also need energy from, going to the Black Forest, and take my bicycle and have enough time it's never enough, but to have time with my friends, with my family, so that I protect a minimum of my private life. Yeah, that's important. It's important to me. So the lesson learned is at the very beginning when I started, I said it's a 24/7 job. You never stop. You constantly work and you never pause. Later, I realized that's not good because I run out of good ideas because I'm so busy. I'm overly busy. I don't see opportunities anymore. And to allow myself also to sometimes relax, i.e., when you sit in the train and this is, or in the plane or whatever, allow yourself sometimes the 15 minutes not to be on your mobile phone, not to do research, not to look at emails. Just sit there and look out of the window and let your thoughts fly. It sounds, it sounds banal maybe, yeah, but it's important because the brain needs that. The brain needs space. The brain needs inspiration. So inspiration can be a beautiful countryside. Inspiration can be a wonderful conversation with the passenger next to you. Whatever it is, or go to a museum, but liberate your mind and keep it open, because that's maybe another element. Everybody who's relatively successful over a longer period of time tends to think to know it all. That's not it's normal, it's natural. I mean, it can happen to all of us. So protect yourself from this perception because it's wrong, and surround yourself with people who maybe challenge your views. That's another learning, over time. Make sure that you have enough people around you who tell you, Frank, I'm sorry, but your idea is really not good, or maybe it's stupid, yeah, and encourage people to to challenge you, which is difficult, of course. I get it. It's easier said than done because as a CEO, you think, hey, you are in practical terms, you're a nice guy, you're treating people equally, but there is distance always because of the sheer fact that you carry these three letters, CEO. It creates distance. So make this distance as small as you can.
So obviously looking at a talent, and we all know, particularly hospitality, talent has always been or is always a little bit more tricky and has its own challenges. I'd love to hear from you when you do look at hiring for senior leadership roles. What are some of the challenges you're facing in the current market? And then I think particularly how important do you think is the overall aspect of diversity, equity, and inclusion within the process?
So as a little, let's say, prologue to my answer, and an advice to, in particular, younger people, ask more questions than you make statements as a leader, even if you think you know the answer, because the more you make statements, no matter how correct and valid they are, people tend to be, less and less active. Okay, they will wait for you to make the call because you're so good at it, quotation marks. So your point is, what challenges do we face when we look for senior leadership? One observation is that it's not a challenge, it's more what we need to be aware of. For instance, is the family or the partners, are they happy when a senior leader moves to a new city? I cannot just look at the applicant or the team member I have already with me. I cannot take it for granted that sending him from London to Munich is a great move just because the Munich hotel is a superb opportunity. I need to see if the family likes it, and the challenges I see, but as the world has changed, of course, that sometimes it is more difficult for senior leaders to convince their families to frequently move from A to B to C. So that is, I guess, is important. So you need to, make sure that the personal environment of your senior leader allows that. And I've seen it in the past that despite asking the question, are you fine? Do you feel good about it? Yeah. That even senior leaders sometimes after a certain time realize, well, that maybe it's not a great step, and I don't feel comfortable. My family doesn't feel comfortable. I want to go back, or it's not for me. So maybe this has changed, and it's how people view their jobs and their private lives, but it's not a criticism, because I have to accept that in my life, I never looked at this for me. My family always, ultimately, accepted what the job I have or I had, what the job required. But I cannot just take that for given, or take that as a given when I speak to leaders who are younger than I am. So that's point number A. Other than that, it's no. Other than that, I don't see a lot. I don't see a lot, because all the let me think. All the other elements, treat people with respect, offer opportunities, grant them freedom to, to be an entrepreneur. Have a good conversation. That remains the same. That remains the same. What maybe an element which is there a bit. Corona has changed a little bit the minds of people, I think. Yeah, maybe it's my subjective observation. What does that mean? Sometimes people are more sensitive towards pressure, which is there for a long time. Maybe, I don't know, I don't want to sound unfair. Maybe there is a lesser degree of resilience. I might be wrong, and maybe it's not everybody, but I see that a little bit. So what does that mean? I have to be, even more cautious. I have to be more sensitive in my role, where people are, how they feel about it. So maybe these are the two elements which I believe have changed a bit over time.
Okay. And to kind of just before we wrap it up, to go back to the part of how important is diversity, equity, and inclusion in sort of the overall hiring process, because I think it's an important topic. Would love to kind of just get your thoughts on it.
I think companies must embrace the concept of diversity. It's absolutely imperative. Why? I mean, first of all, how can you understand a complex, diverse world if your team, let's say, has a monoculture, sees only one aspect of the world? So you better make sure that you have various generations within your company. And depending what business you are in, and as a hotel company is an international business, that you have a cultural understanding, and also that different nationalities are with you. So this is, without this, you will miss a lot of opportunities. And it is also to give opportunities to people. Look at the amount of, the world has 50% female and 50% male population. There is no reason why this is not reflected in business or in politics, because there's a lot of female talent, which cannot be used because of circumstances. So a company has to encourage also employees to have families. If a woman fears or feels uncomfortable saying we're going to expect a baby because she maybe fears that her personal career will stop, or it's just the way a company looks at this, or that's inconvenient, or you're going to be away for 6 to 9 months. This is terrible. Okay, so and all this, I see that a company, as a leader, you can, in the time you fill this seat, I can make a little difference, okay? And I guess I must make a little difference because I have the means and the possibilities to change my company in this sense. So, super important, not because it's an obligation to do, it's an opportunity, it's a chance. Diverse teams can manage a complex, diverse world better. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's been great getting your viewpoints. And yeah, thank you so much.
Sean, I have to thank you. And to finish, I always I always looked at the chance to work with many people, different people, as an enriching part of my own life. Yeah, my dad, who's 85, and Sean, you might remember the 4M formula, and it's a German formula, and if you translate it, it says, you should like people, yeah, if you are in the service industry, and I love people, and that makes it all too wonderful to yeah, be in the hospitality industry. Sean, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.